First off, I'd like to thank Andrew and Marisur for giving me the opportunity to talk to everybody today. There obviously are a lot of threats and issues that take place on the internet, especially in today's world. I don't think there's a day that goes by that you don't read something in the news about somebody's account being breached or some other types of activities online. But today I want to keep it a little bit more focused to some of the types of crimes that we see committed against mostly the consumer instead of the more breaches within the business community. And so with that, what we're going to talk about today, and again, the internet, again, it's a worldwide entity, and it gives the ability for people to commit fraud in many different ways. And it gives them a lot of anonymity as to who's actually performing this. And that's why it makes these crimes, A, for one thing, so believable, and B, very hard to investigate and to move forward. And again, just because somebody says that they're from a certain location or they're in a certain area doesn't mean that that's where they actually are. And that gives a lot of anonymity to the people that actually commit these scams online. And so today, some of the things we're going to talk about are the ones that we run into the most with regard to the consumer level people that are involved that get scammed. And so we're going to talk about purchased item scams, and this is where you may receive an email that states that you have purchased something and that your bank account or your credit card has been debited for the transaction. We'll talk about romance scams. These are used in a lot of different ways, and I think these are some of the bigger problems that we run into. And basically, you're duped into giving access to a bank account. You know, people befriend you. They ask for information from you, for bank account information, for money, for different things. And there's a lot of different ways that these are used to commit further scams. And then, of course, scareware. I think everybody's probably received some type of pop-up on their screen that says their system is infected and that they need to call this number in order to have the system corrected. These are a number of things that we run into on a daily basis. And again, these affect mostly your consumers, normal people that are just doing online browsing and things like that on their computer. So purchased item scams, right? So the first thing that usually happens is you receive an email that states your purchase is complete and that your checking account has been debited. They normally try to focus in on the checking accounts because, again, I think people are more apprehensive whenever they find out that somebody's withdrawing money out of their checking account for something, as opposed to a credit card where you can actually dispute the charge with your credit card company. And these things look very official. The emails themselves are very well crafted, and they look like they come from a number of reputable companies such as Norton Antivirus or Amazon Security, Best Buy, some of the bigger name companies. And you'll normally always be provided with a number in the email to call with questions. So this is a look at one of the emails that somebody had received in regard to basically their subscription for Best Buy for the Geek Squad has been renewed. And if you read down through it, you'll see some of the English isn't the greatest, but it's really not all that bad as well. But again, it basically says that, hey, we have received the payment towards your subscription. And again, indicating that you've already paid this bill, which gives that a little bit of it elevates more of something that you may need to take care of quickly. And so but the one thing that we see often, and this is one thing that should kind of always tip you a little bit if the English doesn't kind of give away some of the things which they are much better at, the word kindly inside the emails. Because if you look at this one, you'll see it says kindly print this email. Normally, we don't use that type of language. We'll say, please print this email or print this email for your records. We see that word kindly used a lot in some of the fraudulent emails. And again, you'll notice down at the bottom, there's an 800 number that is provided for you to call if you have any questions. So what happens in this situation? So the victim calls the number in the email. They're told by the scammer that they will give them a refund. Primarily, what happens is that the scammer will direct the user to a website to download some software, because they say they need to for you to download the software in order for you to be able to get this refund. And what they are primarily doing is they're downloading a remote access software to your system. And this allows them to sit on the back end and watch everything that you do on your computer screen without you being able to see. And they can actually even take control of your system and do various things. Some of the software that you see, that we run into a lot, are AnyDesk, Remote PC, and TeamViewer. So the scammer actually gets access to the victim's computer. Once you download the software, you install the software, it connects to a session, and then now the scammer actually can see your screen, and they have access to your computer at this point. What they're going to ask you to do is log into your bank account so that they can refund the money for you. And the idea behind this is that you're not giving out banking credentials, you're not giving out your bank account information, you're actually logging into your bank for them to be able to give you this refund. So it kind of puts you a little bit more at ease as far as, well, they're not asking for my information, right? So maybe it is legit. So what the scammer, and we found that the customer service that is used by some of these scammers is actually very high quality. They will take you through the entire process, not only of sending you the links that you need to download the software to actually helping you stand up. If you don't have online banking, they will actually help you go through the process of setting up your online banking. Their customer service is actually very good, because again, they want to get access to your accounts. So then what happens is the scammer will make, quote unquote, make a mistake transferring money. So in other words, in this case where it's $389, they may say they made a mistake and they put too many zeros on the end and they transferred $38,900 into your account. And so they're telling you that too much money is placed in your account and that you need to refund that money in order for them so they don't get fired. And sometimes what they will do too is since they can look inside your accounts and see what are in there, if they see you maybe have a money market account or some other type of account associated with your checking account, they can actually transfer the money from, say, your money market account over into your checking account to make it look like they actually did refund too much money to you. So they're very good at performing these types of scams. So the victim will be told to return the money. And because again, they said that they've put too much money back into your account and it has to be returned in order for them not to be fired or get into some sort of trouble. They'll provide wiring instructions. Now, these wiring instructions could be for another bank account, or they could be for a bank account within the US, or they could be for a foreign bank account. They normally will try to work with bank accounts within the United States, because whenever you transfer money outside the United States to foreign entities, it takes a longer period of time, which then has the opportunity for you to possibly be able to recover your money if there was an issue with it. And so they will give the victim the wiring instructions, the name, the bank account, all of that information. And we've even seen where they have taken a document and printed it off on the victim's computer so that if they would have to walk down to the bank to say, hey, I need to transfer this money, that they have all the information right there in the printout. Or if they're unable to transfer the money, they will ask the victim to actually withdraw money from the account and send it via FedEx and UPS. Now, they're asking it to be mailed somewhere within the US, and it's usually to what we call a money mule. These are they're people that have been duped into allowing other people to send them things, to transfer money into their accounts and do different things. And we'll talk a little bit more about these money mules on the next one, is how they're recruited. But again, a lot of times these are unsuspecting individuals that are receiving these monies or they're being transferred into their accounts. Some of the odd things that they will ask you to do is whenever you're shipping that money via FedEx or UPS is to take the money and put it in between the pages in the book, get a book and put the money in between the pages in the book and wrap it up in aluminum foil, put it in bubble wrap and put it in a gift wrap box so it looks like it's a present. And again, these are just ways that they try to, because FedEx and UPS actually will ask what the purpose of the package and what it is. And if they think it's fraud, they will try to stop the transaction from taking place. So they again, customer service, right? They're trying to make this as easy as possible for the transition to get that money that they want. But they also may ask you to purchase gift cards, like prepaid MasterCards or other gift cards for things. And in this situation, they're going to ask you to purchase thousands of dollars worth of gift cards. Anytime anybody asks you to purchase that amount of gift cards, you should be suspect of why they're actually doing it. And they'll ask you to give them the numbers off the card and scratch off the security tape on the back to reveal the codes and things like that, and hold them up to the camera on your computer, which they'll snap a picture of it so that they have that information so they can cash those cards out. And a lot of times, the scammers will stay on the phone with the victim in order to walk them through this entire process. They'll direct them, they'll look online to see your location, and they'll direct you to the nearest drop-off facility for UPS or FedEx or whatever, or give you the name of stores that are close by you where you can go purchase the gift cards. Again, they're very, very customer oriented because they want to get that money from you. So what do you need to do? So again, this is where time is of the essence. If you've been scammed in some way, shape, or form, whether it's this or something else, anytime money gets transferred out of your accounts or you send money to an account, time matters. And so the quicker that you report this, the better chance you have of recovering those funds. And so we stress a lot that the first thing you need to do is call your bank. Let your bank know that there's a problem. Then you can also reach out to law enforcement, notify your local law enforcement. We deal a lot with local police agencies, and right in Johnstown, we have what we call a task force office in Richland Township Police Department. And so they can call us anytime to help with any situation that they run across. And so there's a great deal of sharing on the law enforcement side as far as getting help. And so what we can do is we can collect the needed information that we need in order to maybe track down who has actually done this. But more importantly, the number one thing that the victim wants is they really want their money back. And again, we're talking time of days, only several days, as compared to weeks or even months. And if we're notified weeks later, there really isn't much that you can do to try to get that money back. But you should always notify your bank as soon as possible. And again, law enforcement, we're all here to help you. And again, we'll do that by collecting and analyzing data within your system. So romance scams. These are very problematic for a number of reasons. So usually take place in social media, right? Facebook, Instagram, a lot of these social media sites. You'll receive a friend request from somebody and you probably don't know them, or they might say that they knew you through this person or that person. And once you start this relationship of talking with them, it'll escalate into, they might, you start doing phone calls, you'll do chats, you'll do emails, and they're cultivating this relationship. And so once that relationship has hit a point to where they think that they can ask the victim then for different types of services, they will actually reach out and do that. And a lot of times they'll ask for money or they'll ask to use the victim's bank accounts for various things. They'll need money for travel. They want to meet them, but they don't have the money to do it right now, or they need the money to get the proper travel documentation so that they can travel to the US to see the individual. there's a number of reasons why they'll ask for money from a victim in this situation. And again, these things are nothing more than scams. So the one that we see a lot, and this is where this is tied into some of the purchase requests, the purchase scams, is that they'll ask the victim if they can use their bank account in order to transfer money. And so the victim will give them their bank account in order for them to wire money directly into their bank account. And they'll say, well, I'm out of the country. I can't access the funds in my bank account, or my account is being audited, and they won't allow me to transfer money in and out while it's being audited, or I have the wrong type of account. I'm not sure what type means, but we've seen that several times where they just say the type of account that I have is incorrect and they won't let me send the money. And so the idea is that that money will come into the victim's checking account of the romance scam, and then at some point they're going to ask them to transfer that money out again, and they'll do that a couple of different ways. But they also may ask for the victim to set up additional accounts for them as well too, because of notifications within the system. The way the system works, sometimes whenever accounts are being transferred from one to another, those things are accessed through the various agencies, that you can actually see some money moving back and forth. And those, if especially law enforcement knows that the accounts are being used for fraudulent activity, they will flag those accounts to be notified if there's any problems with anything. But again, they'll tell the victim for a number of reasons why they need to use their account. So the money can be wired into the account, or the victim may receive a check, and they'll ask them to deposit the check into their account. Once that money is either wired into the account or the check is deposited into the account, the scammer will then ask the person to either transfer the money to another account, offshore account, purchase gift cards. You know, there's a whole another realm of things that can take place here. Or, you know, cash money out of the account and mail it to this address. So once again, it's just their way of moving the money around to make it a little more hard to get, or hard to track, and then to eventually get the money out. One of the things we're seeing now too is with a lot of the cryptocurrency like Bitcoin and things like that, we're seeing more victims being asked to purchase Bitcoin or some other type of cryptocurrency to send. And this should raise a red flag right away for anybody that's doing something, because the problem with the cryptocurrencies is that once you send that money via cryptocurrency, getting it back is nearly impossible, because that transaction takes place so fast that it's not like the same regulations that are within our banking industry. So getting that money back is much more difficult, if possible at all. So again, and sometimes the scammer will ask the victim to purchase specific items in order to ship. And this is where you see some of these now, and I'm not trying to call out an entire industry, but you see a lot of these work from home ads in papers and on personal sites and things like that, where, you know, all you're doing is being asked to box up things. You'll receive things in the mail and you're asked to box them up and send them off to another address. And they'll pay you for that. And these are the types of scams where people are duped into doing things that they normally would not do. And so, again, all of these things should be red flags that are asking, you know, you should be asking yourself, what exactly am I doing here? So scareware scams, these actually are the ones where you get like a virus alert that pops up on your computer and says, hey, right away, you need to do something now. And it's urgent. It scares you, right? You know, because you don't want your computer being infected for whatever reason. And there's obviously a lot of problems with that taking place. But again, it's you know, it's a very, in the same way with a lot of these other scams as well too, there's a lot of other dire messages that come with them. I need this right away. I need to do this right away. This has to be done very quickly, you know, because they're trying to put a sense of urgency to it so that you act quickly in order for them to be able to do what they need to do, and for you to be able to not not notify who you might need to quick enough in order for them to reverse the scam. So the victim is instructed to call a number and download software to fix the issue. The software that you download can be the actual malware that you would download to your system. That is the problem, right? And so, and again, as we have seen a number of times, you may download software that's remote access software that gives then the person the ability to access your computer. And once they have access to your computer, they have the ability from that point to do so many different things. You know, they can capture your logins, they can look at all kind of different information that you use within the system itself, so that to keep perpetuating some of the fraud that they will do. And again, sometimes they'll tell you that, hey, we've got your system cleaned up, even though they haven't done anything, but now you've got to pay $300 and some in order for us to satisfy the services that we provided you. And again, if you do provide credit card information, a lot of times you'll find that that credit card now is being used for purchases that were not authorized by you. So we always have to watch out for these types of things. And it's you know, the chances again that pop up have being an issue, and they're very difficult to get out of, right? You can't close out of them. And a lot of times you end up just having to shut the computer down to get away from them. So again, they're very, very good at what they do, and it makes it very difficult to get away from it. So now this is one that we're seeing too quite often now, is the victim will get a phone call, supposedly from a person from Amazon Security, from Microsoft, or something else, telling them that there's a problem, their account's been hacked, or that their computer has been beaconing out and doing things on the internet that are problematic, and that they are more than willing to help the victim out in this situation to pull the hacker. And we have seen in many situations where they're asked to purchase large dollar amounts of gift cards. And these are the prepaid cards or the gift cards from Lowe's, Home Depot, whatever, it doesn't really matter. And what they're trying to do is they call these hacker cards, where anti-hacker cards, where they're trying to reverse what the hacker is doing. And it's just a way for them to get more money out of the victim. And we've seen people purchase, $40,000, $50,000 worth of gift cards in order to fool the hacker. And so these are all things that should start to create red flags for people, that this just isn't normal. Amazon will not reach out to you, will not call you on the phone if you have a problem with your account. They will shut it off and rely on you calling them to find out why your account got shut off. So just keep those types of things in mind whenever you run into these things, because it is, again, our nature, I think, is to, we need to try to fix this. We need to try to do something about it. But then we find out that, you're just being duped into something. And unfortunately, we find that this type of activity is very, very related to the elder community. Elder people are a lot more trusting of what they're being told than some of the younger people, but we do find it across the spectrum. But they do, especially on the romance scams, we find that the elder people are more often than not the ones being victimized by these scammers. So preventing scams. So the idea is don't accept friend requests from people that you do not know or have some type of relationship with. Always be skeptical of people that are reaching out to you to want to have a relationship, whether it's via Facebook or some other type of social media. You should always be skeptical, and don't and this is kind of like the one thing that really aggravates me, because I get them a lot too. People put them out there, these Facebook surveys or these different things that, hey, what was your favorite song in high school? What was what's your favorite food? They're asking you, and all of these should sound familiar, like they may be security questions that you have used to set up access on an account. So again, the scammers, through various means, start to build this pile of information on people so that they can try to determine, what their security questions may be, what their passwords may be, all things like that. And so we always have to be cautious of those things. And I just tell people never, ever, ever respond to any of those Facebook surveys or anything like that, because no good can come from it. Don't share your bank account information and with anyone requesting to use your account because they have access. They have issues accessing their own. If there isn't a legitimate purpose for somebody to transfer money into your account, you should always question as to why that person wants to do it. There are many other ways that things can be handled, but again, if somebody that you know is asking you for your account information, that should raise red flags. Do not, and this is a big one. Do not install or download software that gives somebody access to your computer. Anytime somebody reaches out to you and asks you to download software in order for them to help you correct a problem, be very, very, very skeptical. Because again, we find this in more times than not that this is a scam, and it's just a way for them to get access to your systems. I think everybody is probably familiar with this one. It was do not open attachments or click on links in emails. They say from people you don't know. There's probably a lot of people that I know that I would not open up attachments or click on links in emails that they send me. It's just because you know how some people are about things. But again, that is, and we find a lot of these scams start to take place by people doing exactly that, clicking on a link or clicking on an email attachment that sets things off to the races. And this is, don't call. So whenever they list the number in an email, don't call the number listed in that email. If it's a business, look up the business. Find out, you have your bank's contact information. Don't rely on an email to tell you what number to call. You have credit cards that have phone numbers on the back of the credit card in order for you to call. So if there's a problem with something, don't rely on phone numbers given inside emails to call, because it is always the case in these fraudulent emails that number is going to hook you to a scammer. And so again, look up the information online, try to find out the legitimate numbers of that business to call in order to rectify your situation. Don't rely on the phone numbers or the links or other things within the email itself for contact information. This alone will save you a lot of problems. Make sure you update your computer with security patches. Update your antivirus. A lot of these things are pretty simple anymore. Just make sure you update it. Make sure you're applying the proper security patches. It is very, very important to do this. The other thing that we always recommend, and this would actually prevent a lot of, especially whenever it comes to some of the email scams and some of the account takeovers, use two-factor authentication. I know it's a little more difficult, and I do use it myself quite often, where I'm using my phone. I get a text on my phone that has a number that then I have to put in. It's a pain, but again, security is inversely proportional to ease of use, right? But sometimes if we're protecting things that are important, we want to make sure that we have that elevated security. We want to protect our accounts. We want to do those types of things. Do not use open public Wi-Fi. If you can avoid using any type of open public Wi-Fi, you want to make sure you do. Unless you have a VPN, a virtual private network, that you can actually send all your traffic through. We find that in a lot of situations that some of these open Wi-Fis are actually just places that they want people to connect their computers to so that they can actually perform some type of operation on their system to circumvent some of their security controls. It's a problem, but unfortunately you go into a place like Starbucks or things like that, they have a lot of open public Wi-Fi. But again, I would not use any type of open public Wi-Fi unless I have some type of VPN that would go along with it. Passwords. Again, can't say it enough. Use complex passwords, uppercase, lowercase, numbers, special characters. Do not use the same password for multiple sites. This alone can save you a lot of problems. And I pulled this statistic up the other day, which I thought was rather telling of everything. It says there are over 15 billion username password combinations for sale on the dark web, with over 5 billion that are considered unique. So that means there's 5 billion unique password username combinations out there that are just for sale to people on the dark web. And they will buy these lists of username and passwords in order to be able to try to break into people's accounts and things like that. And you'll notice some of the services, I know Apple on the iPhones and things like that, they actually have a service now. You may see a pop-up on your phone where it says, hey, if you're using a password for a certain account, it'll come up and say, hey, this password is shown up on a site that was purchased, was on the dark web, is being sold for a password, a legitimate password. And so they're trying, a lot of these manufacturers are trying to come up with ways to help people make determinations as to whether or not their passwords are strong and protect their passwords and protect their accounts. But again, use complex ones and use different ones for every site. I use a password safe to store my credentials. Again, it's a bit of a pain to use it, but again, I know I have randomly generated passwords. And you know, every site I go to has a different randomly generated password. It can be a little bit of a pain, but I know my stuff is protected, and it's helped me over the years because there have been some of my accounts that have been compromised, but I don't need to go any further than that because I know only that one account has been compromised. And one of the questions that I get asked a lot from people is, how do I prevent this from happening to me? The answer is you can't. The fact of the matter is you can't. Sooner or later, you're going to be a victim of some type of scam. Whether it's, you know, a breach on a website that you use for something else, or that you're phished through an email, sooner or later you're going to get scammed. The idea is that you limit the damage from that scam or from that breach to a smaller subset so that you can control it. And that, I think, is the best that we can do right now, is just try to limit what damage can be done from somebody getting access to a username and a password that you use somewhere. Again, do not use an administrator. Usually whenever you set up a Windows box, if you turn on your laptop and set it up, it creates an administrator account. You are the administrator on that account. You should always just set up a regular user account to use for your daily use, because that prevents, again, what will happen is if that software needs administrative credentials to run, which most of these do to install and to run, you'll be alerted that, hey, there may be a problem here. And so that kind of, again, gives you some indication that there's something wrong, that you need to maybe add some more questions to why this person is asking you to do this. All right, so that's the end of my presentation. I hope that you find it useful, and if we have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer.
Thank you very much, John. I think it's incredibly useful information. We did get a couple of questions in the chat, and I had a couple of questions sent to me on a different chat as well. So we'll go with Carlisa's question here first. So what is the advantage of using things like romance scams, for example, as a way to try to scam somebody versus using the remote PC that allows them to sort of watch you sign into your account and do what they need to do on their own?
Sure. Great question. The idea behind the romance scams a lot of times is that they're looking for the ability to transfer lots of money, large sums of money through an account. And so they want to have, because again, they're scamming literally thousands of people. And the idea is that they need a place that they can run this money through in order to, again, we're trying to, you know, for lack of a better term, they're trying to launder the money, right? Because they'll run it through a number of different accounts in order to try to make it more difficult to track that money. And as it's moving from point A to point B, it's going to this account to this account. And so it gets moved around a lot of different places. Whereas whenever somebody's just logging in, you're looking at just being the single victim in this point where, and again, it doesn't say that they won't use your account if they gain credentials to your account. It doesn't say that they won't use your account for some type of money mule type thing where they're going to move money through it. It's just normally whenever they're asking for the remote access, it's this one-time scam that you're going to get hit with, and it's usually for a large sum of money too. I mean, it's not going to be for $300 or $400. It's going to be for tens of thousands of dollars, and so you have to be cautious of that as well.
Okay. Sort of a follow-up question that I had was regarding the gift cards. It kind of, and honestly, this is one of the things that I have thought myself about as well, that it seems odd at times that anything like any organization like the IRS, for example, would ever ask you for a gift card in terms of payment. What reasons do they give for why you should buy a gift card as opposed to, sending the money directly or writing a check?
Right. Well, because sometimes, again, it's because they'll say that they don't have access. They need that money urgently, right? They need it right away. They don't have access to accounts that they can cash a check or that you can wire the money to. So this just provides another means for them to be able to get the cash, and then they'll take and cash that card out. It's just another means of moving money around. And you're absolutely right that no legitimate government entity is going to ask you for a gift card to pay for something. So two other quick points is that a lot of times you'll see this as well too, where you get the scams for even like the kidnapping scams, right? That people will get a call and say either their son, daughter, grandson, granddaughter, whatever has been kidnapped, or that they've been seriously injured in an accident and they're out of the country, and you need to send this money or gift card. They usually rely on the gift cards last, because again, that once the gift cards are out into the wild, they get them cashed out fairly quickly. And it's usually their last means of asking for something. They want the wire first, they want the cash second, and usually the gift card's third. But again, if it's a way for them that nothing else works, they're more than willing to accept the gift cards.
Okay. Regarding things like using phone numbers and so forth that you see in emails and things like that, um, what do they usually have a phone number? Like, like for example, like I know that we have a toll-free number that is a 1-800 number, right? But we've had people get confused and dial 1-888 or one something like that. So, are those the kinds of things you're talking about when you say like the phone numbers might look legitimate but may not really be, or are they something just completely different than that?
Both. They can actually be both, because a lot of times too, especially whenever you see a lot of the email scams and things like that, they will, again, if it's close, sometimes people will not notice a difference between one or two digits in the number, or in a lot of cases, like with that purchase request scam, it's just a completely different number. It's not anything that is even close to a Best Buy or anything like that. But and especially whenever we're dealing with a lot of the email scams that involve fraudulent emails, you'll see that maybe they change one letter in a company name, but nobody picks up on that, right? They don't see those small changes. They just assume that, oh yeah, it was this, and I'm good to go, right? And so, if they're trying to purport to be a certain company, where like say Ameriserve, you're a local entity, you're a local bank, people know you, your customers know you, so they may try to get a number closer to yours that would be look legitimate, but for the most part, in a lot of these, they don't care about the phone numbers. Email addresses and domains, completely different story.
All right. And then the last question was just to maybe elaborate a little bit. You had said that you use a password safe.
Mhm.
Is that equivalent to what some people might consider to be a password manager? Some sort
Yes.
of like, either like I think you mentioned Apple. I think Apple uses something called Keychain,
Mhm.
and there are other ones out there. I'm sure you can't endorse one or the other, but do you think in general that they are a good thing to use?
I do. I do. And you're absolutely correct. There's a number of them out there. Password Safe. There's KeyPass. There's LastPass. There's a number of them out there that are actually. And if you read the reviews on a lot of them, just go to some legitimate sites to read those reviews. They're actually very good, and they're very again, it really helps because I've probably got, I'd say, between, having to track my kids' accounts and my wife's accounts and my accounts and all these things, I probably have several hundred passwords inside of the one of these password safes itself. And again, they're online. Some of them are online, but just remember, if you do use a password safe or anything like that, that you protect it with a very complex, because again, that's the keys to your kingdom, right? If somebody gets access to that, they have all of your passwords, all of your sites, and everything else. So you want to make sure you protect that very well. But yeah, and there's a number of them out there, and you'll find that there's some very good ones, very legitimate ones, and they do have some of them that that link well with web browsers and things like that too. And so to try to make it a little bit easier for you to get your passwords to put into a website and things like that. If anybody's familiar with, if you have an Apple device, a lot of times when you go to log into a site, it just comes up and says, is this username and account in your password list? And yes, you hit the passwords, you put your thumb on, or do the facial recognition, and then it'll bring up the accounts that you can actually select. And it's a very, very good way to manage these accounts and keep those things separate.
Yeah, from a personal perspective, I know that I've had conversations with my mother, just trying to keep things all straight, and it's almost impossible to have a different password for every website that you have these days, just because you've got everything from your bank account to Domino's Pizza or something like that. And they all want a username and password. So to keep them
Right.
all straight, and to keep them all different, is almost impossible without some help.
Right.
So
So there are some things like, if I don't have to store credit card information or any type of payment information on the site, I have some generic passwords that I use for things, because I don't really care, about the account itself, because there's none of my payment information that's on that account. If something happens with it, I don't really care. And so, yeah, there's accounts you probably do want to care more about than others. And I just kind of worry about the accounts that I have that, can financially cause me some issues. And so that's what I try to stick with, using those, the password safe for those types of things.
all right. Well, John, I think that pretty much exhausts the questions that we had. Again, the information you were able to share today only scratches the surface in terms of the types of scams that are out there and different things. But we certainly appreciate your time and your expertise. It was a fantastic presentation. For those of you that are still with us, and if you missed any of the presentation, or somebody who would benefit from watching it, we do have a recording going on right now, and our recordings are usually up on the website within about 24 to 48 hours after the conclusion of any of our webinars. So you should be able to find that on our website by the end of the week, if not as early as tomorrow. And we look forward to hopefully doing more of these in the future. John, thank you again so much for your time, and I would love to invite you back as well. I mean, because I think there's a lot more that we can talk about when it comes to cybersecurity, for sure.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you all very much again, and I hope you all have a great day.